The palace hall exploded with noise. Queen Morenike stood in the center, her voice trembling with anger. "The sacred royal necklace is missing," she screamed. Guards rushed in from every direction. The queen's eyes scanned the room, then stopped. She pointed directly at Tara, a young palace maid standing near the door. "Search her room, now," the queen commanded. Tara's heart dropped. She had done nothing wrong, but the guards obeyed. They ran to her small sleeping quarters and tore through her belongings. Moments later, a guard returned, holding something high in the air. It was the necklace, gleaming and sacred. "It was hidden under her sleeping mat, Your Majesty," the guard announced. The entire court gasped. Tara's legs went weak. "No, I didn't, I would never," she stammered. But no one listened. The queen's lips curled into a cold smile. "Take her away," she ordered. As the guards grabbed Tara's arms, she looked toward King Adedyo. His face was frozen in shock. He had always known Tara as gentle and honest. But now, the evidence was right there. What was he supposed to believe? If you're watching this video, please subscribe to the channel, and tell me in the comments where you're watching my folktale story from. I want to know how far it has traveled. King Adedyo stood slowly from his throne. His voice was steady, but his heart was confused. "Tara," he said, "you have served this palace faithfully, but the necklace was found in your room. I must follow the law." Tara's eyes filled with tears. "My king, I swear I did not take it. Someone is lying." The queen stepped forward quickly. "She dares to accuse me of lying." Morenike's voice was sharp. "Lock her in the dungeon until the night of judgment. Let the gods decide her fate." The king nodded slowly. "So be it. She will be judged in 3 days." The guards dragged Tara toward the dungeon entrance. She didn't fight. She couldn't. As she was pulled away, she turned one last time to look at the king. He was watching her, but something else caught his attention. The queen. She was avoiding his eyes. She turned her face away quickly, as if hiding something. King Adedyo's chest tightened. He had known Morenike for years, but in that moment something felt wrong, very wrong. He said nothing, but he would watch closely now. The dungeon was cold and dark. Tara sat on the stone floor, her arms wrapped around her knees. She replayed everything in her mind. The queen's scream, the guards finding the necklace, the look of triumph on Morenike's face. It had all happened so fast. Why would the queen hate her so much? Tara was just a maid. She cleaned floors. She carried water. She stayed quiet. She had never done anything to offend the queen, or had she? Tara tried to think, but nothing made sense. Then she heard it, a whisper, soft like wind through trees, but there was no wind in the dungeon. "You were chosen for this," the voice said. Tara's head snapped up. "Who's there?" she called out. Silence. Then she felt it, coldness spreading across the floor. She looked down and gasped. Water, clear, shimmering water, was trickling across the stone floor. But that was impossible. The dungeon was completely dry. There were no cracks, no leaks. The water moved toward her slowly, as if it had a purpose. Tara pressed herself against the wall, her heart pounding. What was happening? The water didn't stop. It pooled in front of Tara, glowing faintly in the darkness. Then, slowly, it began to rise. Tara watched in terror as the water shaped itself into the form of a woman, tall, graceful. Her skin shimmered like the surface of a river. Her eyes were ancient and kind. "Do not be afraid, child," the woman said. Her voice was soft but powerful. Tara's mouth opened, but no words came out. Who are you?" she finally whispered. The woman smiled gently. "I am Oshinaro, spirit of the river. I have watched over this land for 1,000 years." Tara's mind raced. "A spirit? Here? Why are you here?" she asked. Oshinaro's expression grew serious. "Because a great lie has been told, and lies, when they are born from envy, awaken old curses." Tara shook her head. "I don't understand." Oshinaro knelt beside her. "The queen has lied against you, but her lie has disturbed something ancient, a prophecy, a balance, and now the truth must return." Tara's hands trembled. "What do I do?" Oshinaro touched her shoulder gently. "You must survive until the night of returning truth. 3 days from now, if you endure, the truth will reveal itself." Queen Morenike lay in her royal bed, but sleep would not come. She stared at the ceiling, her mind spinning. Everything had gone according to plan. The necklace was found. Tara was arrested. The king believed the evidence, so why did she feel so uneasy? She sat up and reached for the necklace, which now rested on her dresser. The moment her fingers touched it, a sharp pain shot through her hand. "Ah!" she gasped, pulling back. The necklace was burning hot, but it looked normal. She touched it again, same result. Her skin turned red. Frustrated, she stood and walked to her mirror. But when she looked at her reflection, she froze. A crack, right down the center of the glass. She hadn't touched it. It had cracked on its own. Her breath quickened. Then something else happened. A piece of parchment fell from her jewelry chest onto the floor. Morenike picked it up with shaking hands. It was old, yellowed with age, and on it, written in dark ink, was a prophecy she had tried to forget. "A girl low as the dust will expose a queen of deceit." Morenike's blood ran cold. No, not now, not her. Years ago, before Morenike became queen, she had visited a powerful seer. The seer had given her a prophecy, a warning. "One day, a humble girl will rise and reveal your true nature," the seer had said. Morenike had laughed it off. But as time passed, the prophecy haunted her. So she did something terrible. She bribed the seer to hide the prophecy. She paid him gold and threatened his family. The seer agreed, and the prophecy was buried. Morenike thought she was safe. But then Tara came to the palace. Sweet, kind, humble Tara. The servants loved her. The guards respected her. Even the king smiled when she passed. And Morenike's envy grew. Every time someone praised Tara's gentle spirit, the queen's heart twisted. "Why do they love her?" Morenike would ask herself. "I am the queen. I am the one who should be admired." But admiration cannot be forced, and envy cannot be hidden forever. Now, holding the prophecy in her hands, Morenike's face hardened. "That girl will not live long enough to fulfill this destiny," she whispered. "I will make sure of it." King Adedyo could not shake the feeling that something was wrong. He trusted his wife, but the way she had avoided his eyes bothered him. So he did something quietly. He called his most trusted guard, a man named Femi, and gave him a secret task. "Investigate the queen's movements on the day the necklace went missing," the king said. Femi nodded and began his search. He spoke to servants. He checked the halls. He asked questions. And soon he discovered something troubling. The queen had been the last person to enter the royal chamber before the necklace vanished. She had been alone. No one else had gone in. Femi returned to the king with this information. "Your Majesty," he said carefully, "the queen was in the chamber just before the necklace was reported missing." The king's face darkened. "Are you certain?" Femi nodded. "Yes, my king." King Adedyo sat back in his throne, his mind racing. Could it be true? Could his own wife have? Before he could finish the thought, news arrived. Femi, the trusted guard, had gone missing. His family had not seen him. His post was abandoned, and no one knew where he had gone. Strange things began happening in the palace. Servants whispered nervously in corners. Shadows seemed to stretch longer than they should, and anyone who touched the sacred necklace suffered sharp burns on their fingers. The queen tried to hide it, but her hands were blistered. She wrapped them in cloth and made excuses. One evening, a palace priest was summoned to bless the necklace. He approached it carefully, chanting prayers. But the moment he laid his hand on it, he cried out in pain. The necklace glowed red-hot. The priest stumbled back, shaking his head. "This is not natural," he said, his voice trembling. The king leaned forward. "What do you mean?" The priest looked him in the eye. "Your Majesty, this sacred object, it rejects the hands of liars. It knows truth from deceit. Whoever last held it with impure intentions has cursed it." The court fell silent. Everyone turned to look at the queen. Morenike's face went pale. "That is nonsense," she said quickly. "The priest is confused." But her voice shook, and her hands, still wrapped in cloth, trembled at her sides. The king said nothing, but his suspicion grew deeper. Back in the dungeon, Oshinaro continued to visit Tara. The river spirit taught her things no one else knew. "Truth lives in water," Oshinaro explained. "Water reflects what is real. If you learn to listen, you will see what others hide." Tara listened carefully. She wanted to understand. Oshinaro showed her how to focus. how to calm her mind, how to look into still water and see beyond the surface. "Visions will come to you," the spirit said. "Trust them." Tara practiced every night. At first, she saw nothing, but slowly images began to appear. One night, as she stared into a small puddle of water on the floor, something changed. The water rippled, and in its reflection, Tara saw a memory, not her own, someone else's. She saw Queen Morenike sneaking into her room. She saw the queen place the necklace carefully under Tara's sleeping mat. She saw the queen smile coldly before leaving. Tara gasped. "I saw it," she whispered. "I saw what she did." Oshinaro nodded. "The water never lies, child. Now you know the truth. Hold on to it. You will need it soon." Queen Morenike was growing desperate. The night of judgment was only 2 days away. She could not let Tara survive that long. If the girls spoke, if the truth came out, everything would be lost. So the queen made a dark decision. She summoned 2 assassins in secret. "I want the girl dead," she told them. "Before Judgment Night, make it look like an accident." The assassins nodded. They were professionals, cold, silent, deadly. The queen paid them well and sent them on their way. "Do not fail me," she warned. Meanwhile, the king announced his decision. "I will not allow Tara to be executed before the night of judgment," he declared. "The law must be followed. She will face trial in 2 days." The queen's face twisted with anger, but she said nothing. She had already set her plan in motion. That night, the assassins prepared. They sharpened their blades. They waited for the dungeon guards to change shifts. And when the moment came, they slipped silently down the dark stairway. Tara was alone, unarmed, asleep. It would be easy. The assassins entered the dungeon without a sound. They moved like shadows. Tara was lying on the cold floor, her eyes closed. One assassin raised his blade, but just as he prepared to strike, something impossible happened. Water erupted from the walls, not a trickle, a flood. The water crashed into the assassins with the force of a river. It pushed them back, slamming them against the stone. They screamed, but the water filled their mouths. They thrashed and fought, but it was no use. The water was alive, controlled, angry. When the guards arrived moments later, they found the 2 assassins unconscious on the floor, soaking wet. Their weapons were scattered. Their faces were frozen in terror. Tara stood in the corner, dry and unharmed. She looked as confused as everyone else. "What happened here?" the head guard demanded. Tara shook her head. "I don't know. I was asleep, then water, everywhere." The guards exchanged nervous glances. One of them whispered, "The gods are protecting her." The news spread quickly through the palace, and everyone began to wonder if the gods protected Tara, what did that mean about the queen? Panic spread through the palace like wildfire. Servants whispered in every corner. "The gods are on the maid's side," they said. "She is innocent." Even the guards began to doubt the queen's story. How could a simple maid survive an assassination attempt by magic, unless she truly was blessed? Queen Morenike heard the whispers, and she felt her power slipping away. Worse, something terrible was happening to her. Each morning, when she looked in the mirror, her face had aged. Lines appeared around her eyes. Her skin grew dull. Her beauty, the one thing she had always relied on, was fading. She tried creams, she tried oils, she tried prayers. Nothing worked. In fact, the more she lied, the worse she looked. By the 2nd day, she looked 10 years older. Panic clawed at her chest. "This cannot be happening," she whispered to herself. Desperate, she made a dangerous choice. She would seek forbidden magic. There was a sorcerer who lived in the forest, an outcast the kingdom had banished years ago. He dealt in dark powers, powers that could bend truth itself. Morenike wrapped herself in a cloak and left the palace in secret. She would do whatever it took to win. The forest was thick and dark. Queen Morenike followed a hidden path until she reached a twisted tree with a door carved into its trunk. She knocked. The door creaked open. Inside sat the sorcerer, old and bent, his eyes glowing faintly in the shadows. "I know why you've come," he said before she could speak. Morenike stepped inside. "I need power, power to silence the truth." The sorcerer smiled, showing broken teeth. "Truth cannot be silenced, only delayed. And delays come with a price." "I don't care," Morenike said. "Give me what I need." The sorcerer reached into a pouch and pulled out a small vial filled with black liquid. "Drink this. It will restore your beauty. It will give you the power to control what others hear. But," he paused, "it will drain something from you, something you cannot get back." Morenike snatched the vial. "I'll take it." The sorcerer's smile widened. "Very well, but remember, lies fed by envy will always demand a price." Morenike didn't listen. She left the forest and drank the potion that same night. Instantly, her beauty returned. Her skin glowed, her eyes sparkled. She looked powerful again, but something else happened. Her shadow detached from her body. King Adagio decided he could wait no longer. He needed answers. So he went to the dungeon himself and asked the guards to leave him alone with Tara. When they were alone, he spoke gently. "Tara, I have known you for years. I do not want to believe you are guilty, but I must know the truth." Tara looked up at him with tired eyes. "My king, I swear on my life, I did not take the necklace." The king studied her face. "Then how did it end up in your room?" Tara hesitated. Then she spoke carefully. "I saw something in the water, a vision. I saw the queen place it there herself." The king's breath caught. "A vision?" Tara nodded. "A river spirit has been helping me. She showed me the truth." The king didn't know what to believe. Visions, spirits, it sounded impossible. But then again, so did water flooding the dungeon to save her life. He stood slowly. "I will test the necklace during the judgment," he said. "If it truly rejects liars, then we will know who speaks the truth." Tara's heart lifted with hope. "Thank you, my king." He nodded and left. But his mind was heavy. If his wife had lied, what else had she done? That night, Queen Morenike stood before her mirror, admiring her restored beauty. The potion had worked. She looked powerful again, untouchable. But then she noticed something strange, her shadow. It wasn't moving with her. It stood still, separate, watching her. She waved her hand. The shadow didn't follow. She stepped forward. The shadow stayed in place. Fear crept up her spine. "What is this?" she whispered. Then the shadow spoke. Its voice was her voice, but twisted, cold, and hollow. "You drank the poison of lies," the shadow said. "Now I am free, and I will speak the truth you tried to hide." Morenike's blood went cold. "No, you are mine, obey me." But the shadow laughed. It drifted through the palace halls, whispering secrets, whispering Tara's innocence. A servant, cleaning late at night, heard the shadow's voice. "The queen lied. The maid is innocent. The queen planted the necklace." The servant froze, trembling. The shadow floated past her, repeating the words over and over. The servant ran to tell the king, but before she could reach him, she collapsed, struck down by the queen's dark magic. Still, she managed to whisper, "Her shadow speaks truth." The servant lay on the floor, barely breathing. Guards rushed to her side. The king arrived moments later. "What happened?" he demanded. The servant's lips moved weakly. "Her shadow speaks truth," she whispered. Then her eyes closed. The palace healer was called immediately. The king's face hardened. A shadow speaking truth? It sounded like madness. But too many strange things had happened. The water in the dungeon, the burning necklace, the priest's warning, and now this. He turned to his captain. "Double the guards around the queen, watch her every move, report everything to me." The captain nodded and left quickly. King Adagio stood alone in the hall, his mind racing. He had loved his wife, trusted her, but now doubt filled every corner of his heart. He thought of Tara sitting in the cold dungeon. Innocent, perhaps, wrongly accused. "If Morenike has lied," he said quietly to himself, "then she has betrayed not just Tara, but the entire kingdom." He clenched his fists. Tomorrow was the night of judgment, and tomorrow the truth, whatever it was, would finally be revealed. He would make sure of it, no matter the cost. The next morning, the palace council gathered for a meeting. The king sat at the head of the table. The queen sat beside him, her face calm but her hands hidden beneath the table. The sacred necklace rested on a ceremonial stand in the center of the room. As the council discussed the upcoming judgment, something impossible happened. The necklace began to glow, softly at first, then brighter and brighter. Everyone stopped talking. They stared in shock. Then, without anyone touching it, the necklace lifted into the air. It floated above the table, glowing like the sun. A deep voice echoed through the chamber, though no one could see who spoke. "Truth cannot remain buried," the voice said. The words shook the walls. The council members gasped and stepped back. The queen's face turned white. Then the necklace turned toward her. It hovered directly in front of Morenike, glowing hotter and brighter. She raised her hands to shield her eyes. "Stop this!" she screamed. But the light grew stronger. And then, from the corner of the room, her shadow began to shriek. A horrible, inhuman sound. The queen fainted and collapsed to the floor. Queen Morenike woke in her chambers, surrounded by worried servants. But she didn't care about them. She only cared about one thing: escape. The night of judgment was tonight. If she stayed, the truth would destroy her. She had to leave. Now. She packed a small bag with gold and jewels. She wrapped the sacred necklace in cloth and tried to take it with her. "This belongs to me," she muttered. "I am the queen." She slipped out of her room and headed toward the palace gates. But the moment she stepped outside, something stopped her. Water, a wall of water rose up from the ground, blocking her path. Morenike stumbled back, gasping. She tried another route. Again, water appeared, flooding the path. She ran toward the stables. Water crashed down like rain, trapping her inside the palace walls. "No, let me out," she screamed. But the river spirits obeyed a higher law. Oshinaro's voice echoed softly through the air. "You cannot run from truth, Morenike. It will find you." Then the most terrifying thing happened. Morenike's shadow reached out and grabbed her ankle. It began dragging her slowly, forcefully toward the judgment hall. Night fell. Torches were lit all around the palace courtyard. Hundreds of people gathered. Nobles, servants, villagers, everyone came to witness the judgment. This was no ordinary trial. The gods themselves seemed to be watching. Thunder rumbled inside the palace walls, though the sky was clear. King Adedyo sat on his throne, his face stern and unreadable. He called for Tara to be brought forward. The guards led her out of the dungeon. She was thin, tired, but her eyes were calm. She had survived. She had endured. And now the truth would speak. The crowd murmured as Tara took her place. Then the doors opened again. Queen Morenike entered, but she was not walking on her own. Her shadow, dark, twisted, and alive, was dragging her forward. She fought against it, but it was too strong. Her feet scraped across the floor as she was pulled toward the throne. The crowd gasped in horror. "What is happening?" someone whispered. "The queen's shadow is alive." The king stood slowly, his voice cutting through the noise. "Silence," he commanded. The courtyard fell quiet. He looked at his wife, then at Tara. "Tonight the truth will be revealed, and no one will escape it." King Adedyo gestured to the guards. They brought forward the sacred necklace and placed it on a ceremonial stand between Tara and the queen. The necklace began to glow immediately, pulsing with light. The king spoke clearly. "This necklace is blessed by the gods. It burns the hands of liars. It rejects deceit. Tonight it will show us the truth." He turned to the queen first. "Morenike, place your hand on the necklace and tell us, did you take it and hide it in Tara's room?" The queen's face twisted with fear, but she had no choice. Slowly she reached out. The moment her fingers touched the necklace, it flared with blinding light. She screamed and pulled her hand back. Her skin was burned, red and blistered. The crowd gasped. The king's face remained hard. "The necklace has answered," he said. Then he turned to Tara. "Now you, place your hand on it and tell us, did you steal the necklace?" Tara stepped forward without fear. She placed her hand gently on the necklace. It glowed softly, warm and gentle. No pain, no burns, just light. The crowd erupted in whispers. The king raised his hand for silence. "The necklace has spoken again," he said. "But I want to see more. I want to see the truth with my own eyes." King Adedyo raised his hand toward the sky. "If the gods are watching, show us what truly happened," he called out. The necklace responded. A blast of light shot out from it, filling the entire courtyard. People shielded their eyes. When they looked again, they saw something miraculous. The light formed a vision in the air, a memory. They saw Queen Morenike entering Tara's small room. They saw her looking around to make sure no one was watching. They saw her pull the sacred necklace from inside her robe. And they saw her place it carefully under Tara's sleeping mat. Then she smiled coldly and left. The vision faded. Silence, complete heavy silence. Everyone had seen it. The truth was undeniable. The king turned slowly to his wife. "Morenike," he said, his voice shaking with anger and grief, "you have lied. You have broken sacred law. You have tried to destroy an innocent life." The queen's face crumbled. She fell to her knees. "It was destiny," she screamed. "There was a prophecy she was going to destroy me. I had no choice." The king's expression hardened. "You always had a choice," he said. "You chose envy. You chose lies. And now you will face the consequences." Before the king could speak another word, the air grew cold. A shimmering light appeared at the center of the courtyard. The crowd stepped back in awe. From the light emerged Oshinaro, the river's spirit. Her presence filled the space with ancient power. Even the king bowed his head in respect. Oshinaro's voice was calm but carried the weight of 1,000 years. "I am Oshinaro, guardian of truth and protector of the innocent. I have watched this kingdom for generations, and tonight I declare the prophecy fulfilled." She turned to Tara. "A girl low as the dust has exposed the queen of deceit." The crowd murmured in amazement. Oshinaro then turned to Queen Morenike. "You sought to destroy what you could not control. You drank poison to hide your lies, but truth cannot be buried. And now the price must be paid." The spirit raised her hand, and the queen began to change. Morenike's restored beauty faded rapidly. Her skin wrinkled. Her hair grayed. Her once bright eyes grew dull. She aged decades in moments. She tried to scream, but her shadow wrapped around her throat, stealing her voice. She clawed at it, but it was no use. The shadow had become her prison. Oshinaro's voice rang out across the courtyard. "Morenike, you are no longer queen. You are no longer welcome in this kingdom. You will be exiled to the Forest of Echoes, where your lies will follow you forever. There, you will hear every word you spoke in deceit, echoing for all time." The guards moved forward to take her, but before they could, Morenike turned to Tara. She crawled on her knees, tears streaming down her aged face. "Please," she begged, "forgive me. I was afraid. I was foolish. Please don't let them take me." Tara looked down at her, the woman who had tried to destroy her, the woman who had lied, plotted, and sent assassins, the woman who had caused her so much pain. The crowd waited, watching. What would Tara say? Would she forgive? Would she show mercy? Tara stood silent for a long moment. Then she spoke, her voice steady and calm. "I will not speak for you or against you. The truth has already spoken." She turned away. The queen sobbed, but no one moved to help her. The guards lifted her to her feet. Her crown fell from her head and shattered on the ground, and she was led away into exile forever. The courtyard remained silent for a moment. Then the king stepped forward. "Tara," he said, his voice filled with emotion, "you have endured injustice with courage. You have carried truth when others carried lies. You are innocent, and I am deeply sorry for what you have suffered." Tara bowed her head. "Thank you, my king." King Adedjo continued. "I offer you a place of honor in this palace. You will no longer serve as a maid. You will be a trusted advisor, a voice of honesty in these halls. Will you accept?" The crowd held its breath. Tara looked around, at the people who had doubted her, at the guards who had locked her away, at the king who had questioned her. Then she looked at Oshinaro, who smiled gently. "Your journey is not over, child," the spirit said softly. "But you have passed the first test. Accept his offer. You will do much good." Tara turned back to the king. "I accept your majesty. I will serve with truth and kindness." The crowd erupted in cheers. People clapped and shouted her name. Tara, the humble maid, had become a symbol of courage, and the kingdom would never forget her. Days passed. Peace returned to the palace. The sacred necklace was placed back in its rightful place, glowing softly as a reminder of truth. Tara took her new role seriously. She advised the king with wisdom and compassion. She helped the poor. She listened to those who had no voice. The people honored her. Songs were sung about the maid who stood against a queen. Children were told her story as a lesson in courage and honesty. The kingdom grew stronger, not through power or wealth, but through justice and fairness. One evening, King Adedjo gathered the court. He stood before them and spoke. "Let this moment be remembered forever. Let it be written in our history. Envy digs a pit, but the one who digs it is the first to fall. Queen Morenike sought to destroy an innocent girl, But in doing so, she destroyed herself. The crowd listened in solemn silence. The king continued. Truth may be delayed, but it cannot be defeated. Lies may spread, but they cannot last. And kindness, no matter how small, will always be rewarded. Tara stood beside him, her heart full. She thought of Oshinaro, the river spirit who had guided her. She thought of the water that had saved her life. And she smiled, because she knew the truth. Goodness always wins in the end. The story you have just heard is a beautiful African folktale I have woven for you today. I am telling it to wake your minds to the dangers of envy, the power of truth, and the courage it takes to stand firm when the world doubts you. Envy is a poison that destroys from within. Queen Morenike had everything: beauty, power, a throne. But because she could not control her jealousy, she lost it all. Tara had nothing but honesty and kindness, and in the end, that was enough to save her. If you were Tara, would you have forgiven the queen? Or would you have let justice take its course without mercy? And if you were the king, would you have believed the evidence in front of you, or would you have trusted your heart? I want to know your thoughts, because every story is like a candle that can light the path for someone else. Remember, truth may be buried, but it will always rise. Lies may spread, but they will always fall. And kindness, no matter how small, will always find its reward. God bless you, and may truth guide your heart. Meanwhile, on the final screen, I am leaving you with one of the channel's most beloved folktales. I am sure you'll love it. Thank you for staying with me until this moment.